Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Super Soldier Talk. My name is James Rink, and we are here with a very special guest, John Whitberg. And yes, we are starting a little bit early, but that was actually my fault. We were starting right on time. I made a mistake. But anyway, for all you people out there who joined us, I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us for this amazing show. So today we're going to talk about, I guess we're actually going to go into Project Looking Glass because you had, John, you came back on here back in May and discussed Project Looking Glass. And we didn't even get to go in Project Looking Glass. We only started with Montauk. So now we're going to go into Looking Glass. So John served in the secret space program under different names, alter names, excuse me. I think I probably should have got some water. John's alter was sent to Vega Prime and later in Solar Warden. His other alter, Heinrich, is a German diplomat officer who was loaned out to the Deep Space Fleet Space Navy, which is another name for JDFC, the Joint Defense Force Command. During this time, he was tasked with setting up new trade agreements, settling disputes, and setting up colonies within the Breakaway. Heinrich was stationed on the USS Hoechkler, which is about 6 miles long. I think that thing looks like a giant submarine, like a cigar.
It's a triangle shaped. It's like the Star Destroyers, more or less.
Okay. His second alter is Jared, is a archaeologist in the ICC, and John believes he's still alive. His other alter, Adam, served in Solar Warden, which later split into Radiant Guardian. Adam served on Europa, New Nuremberg on Titan, the Victoria colony of Mars, and on Ganymede. Adam served as an immigration officer for a solar system. Today, John will be going more about Project Looking Glass and how John got there, and more about planet Typhoon, as well as his family life at Area 51, along with other missions he remembers, including the time, his time he spent on the Titan magnetosphere. So, yeah. New Nuremberg there.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for joining with us here today. So, John, where should we even begin? Maybe you should just tell us a little bit. What is Project Looking Glass in your own definition?
What it is in my definition essentially is the tall whites version of Montauk, kind of. It's less harsh, a lot less harsh, but it's a time travel project that is involved in manipulating the timeline to fit the tall whites agenda. And it's run by naval intelligence.
Okay. And is Project Looking Glass under Project Phoenix? So maybe you should also explain what Project Phoenix is for people who don't know.
Project Phoenix is the proper name for what we call the Montauk Project. No, they're separate. Project Phoenix is run by the Air Force, and like I said, Looking Glass is run by naval intelligence.
Oh, wow. Okay. So describe actually what the maybe we can go with origins of it. So I'm guessing this is like what it looks like the Stargate from SG-1, essentially.
Yes, and there's another device that looks a lot like the Ark of the Covenant, really, but it doesn't have angels on it. It has two little pillars with spheres on top. And if you have psychic abilities and also AB negative blood, you can use it to look at pretty much any moment in time, past, present, future, anywhere in the universe. And that's where the project gets its name. That device, its origins are in the pyramids of China. It was found by Japanese expeditionaries when they were occupying China in the early 1940s, or late 1930s, early 1940s, during World War II. And they couldn't make heads or tails of it, so they turned it over to the Germans. And the Germans couldn't make heads or tails of it either, so they gave it to the Americans, like as part of the treaty in 1953 or 52, 53, something like that. And the Americans were the ones who finally figured out how to use it. And because they finally found the ET species that it originated from, which was the tall whites. So, and
I'm gonna go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, I want to pull up a picture here, and let's see if this is even gonna work. Okay, hold on a second, and I want you to tell me. This was from Dan Burish. He worked at Area 51. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Does that look like what the looking glass technology looks like?
No, not the one that I saw. Not how I remember it. I remember it as a gold box, about maybe about 2 feet deep, 4 feet wide, 4 by 2 by 2, I'd say. And it had 2 little pillars coming out of the top. They were silver, actually, and on the top they had gold spheres about the size of a softball, roughly. And what you were seeing when you connected to the device would be in between those 2 spheres.
Okay. Wow. All right. Now let's go ahead and maybe let's discuss what time period did was it the Chinese or You said Japanese.
Yes,
Got a hold of
it was. I believe 1941.
Okay. And so were the Japanese in China at that point?
Yes, they were occupying it.
Okay. All right. So the Japanese get a hold of this technology, and are they using it to start their own breakaway? What we call the Yozuru no Kaishu.
They used some Stargate technology to do that, which they also that area, but they didn't know how to use the looking glass. They never figured it out.
All right. So how did naval intelligence get a hold of this Stargate looking glass?
Through deal between the Americans, MIC, and the Germans in space. Because the Japanese turned it over to the Germans couldn't figure it out either. And so when that treaty came up, they gave it to America as kind of a backhanded thing of, we'll hand you this thing that's probably some amazing technology, but we can't figure it out, and we're so arrogant we don't think you'll ever figure it out either. So, yeah.
All right. So what time period do you think the Americans got a hold of it?
1953.
All right. So what happens then? Where do they take it?
I'm not sure entirely what happened in the intervening years. By 1975, they had figured it out fully, and were putting it into use because they had. I don't know when they made the deal with the tall whites. That's the missing link, really, because it was the tall whites who showed them how to use it.
All right. So we know, I guess the tall whites are based around there at Area 51.
Yeah,
One of those other areas. Do you remember what it was called? Which area it is?
52.
Area 52. All right. Okay. So we're guessing what this was maybe built out maybe the late 50s, early 60s, probably.
Probably, yeah.
All right. And John, how old are you, if you don't mind telling us?
I'm 22.
Okay. And do you think you might have been? So how does that actually work? Did you actually go back in time?
Yes, I was sent back in time to be a part of this.
Okay, and you were there at the beginning.
Not at
Period.
the beginning, no. Not at the very beginning. I got there in 1975.
All right. So we're guessing that you went through a portal at Montauk.
Yes, yes. And I mentioned this briefly. Me being sent to Looking Glass was actually a punishment, um, or at the very least a demotion. But no, it was a punishment because deliberately did it so I would never see my friends at Montauk or my trauma twin again.
Yeah, and his name was Kyle.
No, my trauma twin was a woman, Melanie.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow. All right. So,
Altar of mine. That's a whole other subject.
all right. What time period were you at Montauk when they sent you back?
It's in a time bubble, so I wasn't really in any time period.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So Montauk operated out of what we call a pocket reality,
Yeah.
I guess. Okay. All right. So from there, were you already an adult or a child when you showed up?
I was an adult.
All right.
See,
Okay.
I would have been 19.
19. All right. And so what exactly was your task or duties on this particular project?
Well, at first they tested me to see if I could use the device, and I could, because I have AB negative blood type, which is it's not an absolute requirement, but 90% of people who can use the looking glass do have that blood type, and so I did do that, and so at first my job really was just using it, looking through it, and gathering intel for people using it. They had me spying on a lot of Cold War targets. They had me spy on the Kremlin using it. They had me spy on the I can't remember the proper term, but the main capital building of Cuba. And then they started me with looking at off-planet things and also at looking into other timelines and things like that. And I began rising through the ranks and so on.
So that was Havana, Cuba.
Presidential palace or whatever it's called.
All right. So this was, I guess, back in the 70s.
Yes.
Right. All right. Wow. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more? Why do you think the machine required AB negative blood? What's so special about that particular type of blood?
I believe that this machine was built by Aldebaran, the Aldebaranite species, and they're where the AB negative blood type comes from. And so they made it so that only they or their people could use it. So yeah, that's
All right. How would you actually turn the device on?
just lay your hand on it.
Okay. And is it like sound activated, or you think about what's your target, the Kremlin, or what do you
Yeah,
think?
well, yeah. Think about it, and the machine I'm assuming it must have like an intuitive AI element to it because it picks it up with complete accuracy every time what you're thinking of, even if you're thinking about it in a slightly off way. It picks it up with perfect accuracy.
Oh, wow. So tell us some more about some of these targets you actually saw. Was there anything unusual? Like, for instance, when you looked in the Kremlin, did you see reptilians down there, or what do you think?
I saw a Tauran down there, a Minotaur being, um, and I saw several Tausations in the Kremlin, which they pretty much just look like Mediterranean humans, except they have pointy ears. But like if one of them got plastic surgery on that and had to get ears like ours, they would pass as us with no problem at all. But they have a close relationship with um, Eastern Europe, so yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. And so you said naval intelligence was accessing this data. And like, were they, was the technology able to look into time,
Yes.
past or future? Okay. All right. And how was that able to benefit you? Were you able to see future timelines where things went really wrong and you were able to save people?
Yes, we did that. We did that. There were apocalyptic timelines. There were ones where we fell to a plague, a really serious plague. Like there was one timeline where some terrorist group managed to weaponize necrotizing fasciitis, which is where your skin rots, literally. And they weaponized that and pumped it out into the air, and yeah, it was really awful.
Is that where the zombie apocalypse took place?
That's a whole other different terrible timeline.
And that you can confirm that actually happened.
Yeah, there were several timelines where that happened. Yeah.
Do you have any details on what happened over there?
I believe that it was spread by accident by a lab leak. That it was they were trying to they were planning to use it to resurrect dead soldiers on the battlefield, but they didn't control it to be non-contagious. So when it leaked out of the lab, it just spread across the planet. And within 6 months, pretty much the entire planet was gone. The overwhelming majority of people had either succumbed to the virus or there had been nukes dropped in a lot of places. So you're muted.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. Okay. So all right. And how would you go about like altering? So you would see this zombie timeline where there was a lab leak. So what would they do to modify things?
They would send someone in to infiltrate the lab and sabotage the project. And that worked.
Oh wow. And so tell us about some other timelines that you might have seen.
I have some recall of one where the Soviet Union didn't fall and where they genocided all the ethnic Germans in Europe. They marched westward and reached as far as western France, and they killed all the ethnic Germans. And there was I have some pretty vivid memories of the timeline where I know I can't say this word, the NAZIs won the war. And that was
Well, yeah, but if naval intelligence had it, then how would the that NAZI timeline would have existed? Because wouldn't the Americans be around in the 70s?
they well, it was an alternate timeline. It wasn't this one. It never could have happened in this one with the way the war went. So they allowed that alternate one to exist. But I remember doing some retrieval missions over there to get technology that didn't exist in this one. Yeah.
So tell us some of the different types of technology, if you have that recall, that you would have recovered from these other timelines.
I know that some of these planes that they're developing now, or they're admitting to developing now, they actually have had them for decades, that are capable of going up to like Mach 9 speeds. That comes from that timeline.
So like, jet engines are way faster than anything we have today.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Peter the Insider said that I was the one that worked on that project in the other timeline, where basically the Germans gave Nikola Tesla unlimited budget. But yeah, if I could tell you how it's done, I would, but I don't really know. So anyway, so let's see here. Tell us about some other timelines. Did you ever see perhaps maybe an invasion by aliens? What do you think of that? Some mantoid-like creature, antid creatures.
Yeah, I remember a mantid invasion timeline, and that actually happened during the Kennedy presidency, so early 60s, and I think I have a theory. This is not based on any memories I have, so take it with a grain of salt. But I have a theory that maybe the Cuban Missile Crisis was actually a cover for them negotiating the Mantids from not invading.
Wow, because I have a story to share about that. If you don't, can I share a story about that?
Sure.
You don't mind? Okay. So I'm friends with John. I wouldn't say John Jr., but I think he is one of the other children that supposedly died. And we and I served together at the moon, and his code name was Horatio. And he was tasked to go, or he tasked me and himself and another group of the team to go to a timeline where basically he wanted to recover pictures of himself with his family, because he didn't get to have that here in this timeline. So in this alternate timeline, we went to a warehouse in Greenland, and there was basically water, about maybe a foot of water at the bottom of this warehouse. And he found his pictures, but there was the Mantis basically were in there, and I had to basically grab him because he didn't want to leave. And he was mad at me for about a month for doing that. But okay. Yeah, John. Oh no. Oh no, John. Would rather, I think the audience members would rather hear you than me. Where are you? I guess he's not. Okay. Okay, well, that's basically the end of my story. Let's see here. I guess I'll fill in while we wait for him to come back. Let's see here. The zombie apocalypse. Oh, here we go. Never mind. I guess we'll let John share. Hey, there you go.
Yeah,
I'm done.
You're
welcome.
Okay. Your sound cut out. For me anyway.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I think I hit a button, but okay. I'll listen to that when I listen to the recording.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, it's no big deal. So, so we had a Mantis timeline. So, how did they invasion? How did they modify that? Like, what would they have done?
They negotiated. I don't remember what the exact terms were, but they made some kind of a deal that the Mantids found favorable, so that they wouldn't invade.
Wow. Well, wasn't there like a certain politician that might have sold us out? They might have had a. Would they have modified somebody like that? Like kill them? Yeah.
It's quite possible.
Okay. Wow. And okay, so that time, what other looking glass timelines were you able to peer into?
Gosh, I remember looking into there was one where Africa formed a United States of Africa, which there's even talk of doing that now, and they became one of the dominant economies on the planet. And that was not at all favored, and that's at least part of why they, at least some of these dictators in Africa who have gone in and ruined these countries were installed by Looking Glass, so that this timeline wouldn't happen.
So why do you think it would be a bad thing for there to be a United States of Africa?
I personally don't. They just didn't want any competition for the U.S. I don't think that it's a bad thing myself. This is what they did and thought.
Wow. Do you think there might be some karmic implications about damaging some other timelines to make your own better? What do you think of that?
I think there probably is, but they seem to not give a shit. So, yeah.
So it's essentially like, let's say there was some psychopathic person that went back in time to murder their father, and then when they would come back, they would still be alive until a car would come by and hit them or run them over. So it's like there's some kind of higher laws that are being violated. And anyway, but
Yeah.
okay, so we've got, all right. What other kind of timelines were you able to see? Like a timeline where Atlantis existed?
I don't remember one of those. No. Not that I can recall.
All right. Okay. What about how about a different version of the United States? Maybe one where the South won the Civil War. Did you see anything like that?
Yeah, I did, and it was so that we basically only half of it was the United States. The other half was the Confederate States. So the United States was a much smaller, of much smaller importance when it's only half the size. So they didn't like that timeline either.
Well, I think the NAZIs would have taken over Europe in that particular timeline.
I'm sure that they did.
Right. Okay. So what about oh, we're gonna, I guess I was asked about nuclear war. But let's see here. So we've got, I guess while we're waiting for him to come back, I'll quickly explain the zombie timeline. So, and this other, this particular technology came from Umbrella, and well, I guess he's talking about the NAZI Germans were also working on reanimating the dead. But in this other example, Umbrella was looking for a way to reverse or reduce the aggression level in the populations of people, because in this other timeline, people were more aggressive, and they got this we call, I guess, a femtovirus, black goo virus that came off world, and they would trade for it in the Breakaway. And it was called, let's see here, G virus. Wait, no, that was Golgotha. There was also Veronica, which was really bad. And then we had Ouroboros, which ultimately became the zombie virus. So the goal was to reduce aggression. And then when it got out, it infected a crocodile. And the crocodile mutated the virus, bit a human. And next thing you know, there was the zombie apocalypse. That was going to take place back in 2011. There was actually a video of a zombie eating somebody's face on the side of the road in Miami, where that began. So we had help in this timeline. I think what happens is that when people are more than 50% positive, the negative timelines do not manifest, because, welcome back.
I'm sorry. I'm having technical issues today.
Okay. Well,
my internet doesn't like this weather.
Okay. Well, maybe you could try to maybe get a little closer to the router if you can.
I'll try, yeah.
All right. So let's see here. I was just explaining a little bit about the Umbrella zombie timeline, but All right. So what else would you like to talk about? Anything else? Other timelines? How about maybe go into the future? Was there any good timelines where humanity won?
Yeah, there were a few, and I'm never sure whether we're on one or not. It's things seem the timelines seem to jump every other day, just about. But there's what was I gonna say?
How about a positive timeline where what's a really good one that you saw?
I saw a really good one where we had disclosure. A really good one, and we became part of the galactic community.
Oh wow. So tell us more about the disclosure timeline. So what happens to all the SSP vets?
We were compensated. We were given I think all the money accumulated, or all the payment we had accumulated overdue, in the billions of dollars each for most of us, and we got therapy for free. It was provided by the government. The government provided us with therapy that we need. And this was global, by the way. This was not just in the United States. And they, I think of the word, released. Yeah, released. They released all the technology that's been hidden, or most of it. They didn't release time travel, but I don't think that time travel is really an ethical technology to have around at all. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, Andrew Basaggio, he mentions that in the future it's not really, I mean, there are time travel, what's called temporal recon divisions. But what is available to the public are chronovisor type holographic technology where you could go to your local library and pull up footage of the actual crucifixion of Jesus. Apparently, was it you, John, who said that's the first thing they look that when they get? Oh, I guess the chronovisor. That was the first thing they looked at. Everybody wanted to go see the crucifixion of Jesus. Did you actually see it too, John? The crucifixion of Jesus?
Not that I remember.
Okay. All right. Wow. So do you know if perhaps number, let's see here, 45 comes back? What do you think?
I don't think he's coming back. No.
Okay.
Maybe Junior, Don Junior might. I don't think the original is coming back myself.
Okay. So what else do they allow all the SSP vets to get their memories back so they can testify?
Yes, they allow that. Plenty of people, when they get told about it, they choose not to have it happen. Because they're like, this will be too big of a disruption in my life. I don't want this. Because you've got to remember, only maybe 1% of people who have been used in these projects actually have memories to begin with. So when all these people who have never even heard of the concept get told about it, they're not going to be able to handle it, really, for them.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So how many people do you think are being utilized in these programs, Mr. Whitberg? Okay. Well, I guess since I asked the question, I'm going to have to provide what I think. So it would take about 1 million people per year, beginning in 1955, where they start off with about 50,000 people per year. So I would say there might be maybe 100 million people, possibly. And not all of them are going to be, even though my show is branded Super Soldier Talk, a very very tiny minority of SSP vets were actual utilized as super soldiers. Fortunately, most of them were being utilized as slaves, off-world, sometimes even food, as breeders. You would need a lot of people out there to just build out the colonies and the breakaway. So, and then cloning technology and all that, the actual and time travel technology, the population, the breakaway. I think it actually was John Whitberg who said it was close to 100 trillion people. And of course, the Germans dominating the off-world colonies and their population. So we had, there we go. We actually had, was like architecture of Berlin that they never got to build here in this timeline. They built it in the breakaway.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's the Albert Speer design for Berlin. He wanted, well, actually, the guy at the top of Germany at that time, again, I don't want to get your video in trouble by saying his name, but it begins with an H. He had a vision for Berlin becoming the capital of basically a global empire, and it would be called Germania. It was never called Germania in the breakaway, but they did build it to his vision, using the design of Albert Speer.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I guess in this, positive timeline where all the SSP vets get paid, do you think there's tourism available where we can all travel to the breakaway and visit these places?
Yeah.
I guess. Okay.
Yeah, that'll be a thing.
Nice. Okay. Did they get over their racism issue off-world? The Germans?
It was one of the requirements by the Draco, was when they made the deal in 1944 or 45, they made the deal with the Draco to go off-world. One of the Draco stipulations was drop all this racism bullshit because it's not going to help either of us. So it's not so much out of the goodness of their hearts that the Draco wanted this, or that the Germans stopped it. It was just they had to do it to get this deal.
Oh, wow. So it was actually, it was the Nordics who were having orgies with high-level members of the SS. And they were the ones who created this whole racial superiority philosophy. And so tell us a little bit. Do you have any information on who these Nordics are and why are they basically racist?
They're from Aldebaran, the Aldebaran star system. I don't know how they came to be racist in this way. I mean, they've had a civilization for thousands upon thousands of years, and there's not a whole lot that's known about them, really. So I couldn't say how they reached this conclusion, but
Okay. Thank you, John.
they did. So
All right. Well, let's go back to Looking Glass. How long do you think you might have actually been there?
my altar is still there, and he arrived there in 1975, so that's 48 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, how is that actually going to work when everybody gets compensated? So if you're in this other body, is he going to get compensated too, or what do you know?
That would be my guess, or maybe he'll finally be allowed to retire, and go live his life where he pleases, and be in public.
Oh, wow. Okay. So can you give us an idea how many these looking glasses currently exist and use all around the world? What do you think?
I would say about 10. There's the American one that's at Area 51, which we've been talking about. There's the one, I know that the CCP has one. Russia has one. The Czech Republic, of all places, has one. Argentina has one. And there's a few other countries that I can't think of off the top of my head what they are, but they do. Oh, Switzerland. Switzerland has one at CERN. Yeah.
All right. Wow. So we have a question about the Kili Tokert. Are you familiar with the Kili Tokert?
I've heard that term used to describe two different groups. Some people say that they're grays, and some people say that they're tall whites. I have plenty of memories of both. There were tall whites on base at Area 51 on the staff who would maintain the technology, because we didn't know how to do it. And we still don't really know how to maintain it. And there's at least 30 different species of gray just within our local star cluster. So the ones that are Kili Tokerts, I don't know. I'd need to know a little more about them. I'd need to know which star system they're from, and then maybe I could tell you, oh yeah, I know about them, blah, blah, blah. But
okay. Well, my understanding is that particular group of species of ET are what you would call more neutral, maybe negatively neutral aligned. And they also have technology which allows you to put an entire species into a pocket reality. So once they join the alliance, then yeah, it's basically over for the Draco. But we still got, my opinion, we have another 80 years perhaps before the whole universe gets liberated. But
yeah.
all right. So
I hope it's not that long, but yeah, probably.
So we've had Colin come on the show, and he discussed about this a little bit. Essentially, the whole planet's supposed to flip this year, and then by 20, we're all going to get compensated, I guess, in the positive timeline. By mid 2030s, planet Earth will be basically Tartaria is coming back. And then by 2060, the SSP vets will be trained and allowed to go off world. And then because the Galactic Federation is pulling out of the system. So that's about 2080. We're going to go finish the combat 2080 to 2100.
Okay.
Anyway. All right. So let's go back to the tall whites. Were there actually a tall white there on the base with you?
There were several. And one of them was the Stargate technician. He maintained it and would input the coordinates into the computer, because we didn't know, and we still don't, as far as I'm aware, know how to operate it. So there was one of those. There was one who was on the medical staff. The head doctor was a female tall white. And there was one last one who was he was the representative of their empire, such as it is, who would give us our orders. Or, well, he wasn't giving the orders. He would tell us the orders that we were being given. You know. He didn't have any actual power whatsoever. He just got... he got ordered to order us what to do, if you know what I mean.
Oh, wow. Let me pull this up right quick. This is from the guess Stargate SG1 series. Were these the actual symbols to utilize the technology? Did it look like this?
It looked kind of similar to that, but it wasn't that. No.
Okay. And Do you think this technology was maybe created by, let's say, the builder race? Do you know what I'm talking about, the builder race?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think that's a good possibility.
Interesting. So I guess we could only speculate why, but I guess maybe they wanted us to know. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so let's see here. So tell us, like, how did they actually treat you at the facility? Were they kind to you, or what can you tell us?
They were decent to me, yeah. They were decent to me when I arrived. And they basically, what they did at first was an orientation on what the project was and testing to see what I could do and all of that. They didn't mistreat me, no. They were far kinder to me than anyone or most people at Montauk had been.
Oh wow. Okay. And so what, do they actually like keep you underground? Like you can't even escape, essentially?
Yeah, the base is underground, where all of this stuff happens, all underground, and I only recall being a few times.
Okay. Wow. Um. All right. What do you think? Did we basically pretty much cover your Project Looking Glass at this point?
Well, we were going to talk about family life one a little bit, because that's an interesting subject. There was eventually my trauma twin from Montauk also got transferred there, and so we were reunited. It had been, from our perspective, thousands of years, because a lot of these missions they send you on, both out of Montauk and out of Area 51, they last for days, and then you come back. All of that. So it had been a really long time for us, but we were reunited, and we got married, and eventually, and there were interesting. It was interesting trying to raise a family in that environment. It was nowhere near as horrendous as it was at Montauk, but it was difficult, trying to care for a child and also having these duties, and also having to eventually bring your child into this program. Because I had a son who I eventually had to show how to operate the looking glass. I had to do a lot of things with him to train him, and there was a period where it got easier, where we were living in Hong Kong for 3 years. That's a story in and of itself, but okay.
Oh wow. Oh, so you were in Hong Kong. Was that the Hong Long organization?
No, this was in the 80s, so it was with MI6, because Hong Kong in the 80s was a British territory. It's liaisoning with MI6, uh, working with their time travel program.
And what did you do with that particular group?
Myself and my wife were basically just advice how to do time travel correctly, pretty much. And
Yeah. So doing time travel, you're kind of breaking up a little bit.
my wife and we were there in Hong Kong advising MI6 on how to do time travel correctly. That was our role over there. So we lived, on most days, we just lived in the city. We had an apartment, and we lived a fairly normal life on most days, except for when we got called into the MI6 office when they needed advice on something.
Okay. Wow. All right. So let's see here. Should we? Did you want to go? Should we go into planet Typhoon right now?
Yeah.
What do you think? Okay. All right. So let me pull this up. Actually, let me find it. So here's a picture of planet Typhoon. That art. It's like art. It's basically artwork that. Yeah, it's not an actual picture, but hold on a second here. Let me pull this up. We're gonna get this going. All right. Let me make this a little bigger. So tell us what is planet Typhoon? Like what does it look like?
It's an Earth-like moon. Actually, it's not technically a planet, but it's semantics, and it orbits a gas giant, um, and which is in a binary star system. It has one orange star and one white star. So this place, it has two suns, um, and it's a paradise. It really is, to me anyway. Um, that's where uh, my wife and I did live there at times, several times, and I lived there by myself several times afterwards. After she was ripped from me along with my son, that's a whole other story. But we lived there a number of times. I have another altar who actually has a house there, and it's not, well, it's more of a shack on the beach, really. But it's it has a perfect climate. It's really sunny, but it's not really super hot. It's just warm, pretty much year round. Um, it rarely ever rains, yet it's perfectly moist. The gravity is about what I like gravity to be. Um, Gravity on Earth is too heavy for me, and I have back problems because of it. Um, but so where was I?
Well, how far
Right.
away is planet Typhoon from our system?
I believe about 50 light years.
Okay. And do they have like jump rooms that can go there? You can
Yeah,
immediately teleport.
yeah, it's pretty easy.
Wow. How
Yeah,
many people do you think live there?
it's in the tens of billions. It's a very populated planet. It's a hub world, is what they call it. It's a galactic trading hub. So people from all around the galaxy live there in kind of an integrated co-community, um, in peace, and you go there to trade things. So it does, I guess, like any trading port, it does have its seedy side, but that's part of its charm.
Oh wow. What can you please explain to us, because the breakaway started? I mean, I'm going to be rhetorical because I know what's going on, but according to the more common UFO lore, the Germans began settling the moon and Mars back in the 1940s. So how did billions of people, tens of billions of people,
Uh,
get here?
Most of them are not human, and this place was populated. We're the newest arrivals. It's not a breakaway planet per se. There's breakaway Germans and breakaway Americans living there, but it's not one of their planets.
Oh wow. Okay. Um. So just tell us a little bit what the locals actually look like, the natives to the planet.
The natives look similar to us, but they have like lavender colored skin, and most of them have like silvery white hair. Some of them have black hair, some of them have red hair, but most of them it's silvery white, and they have gold eyes. Um, the closest I've seen is the character Trans Gemini from uh, Andromeda, the show Andromeda. That's the closest I've seen. They don't dress like that. They dress like ancient Romans, pretty much, in tunics.
Well, were they welcoming to the Germans, colonists, or I guess maybe it's not just Germans that showed up, the Americans, that they have a gate from Area 51?
Yeah, they were welcoming. They welcome anyone who is just there to trade and make an honest living, which they pretty much were in that particular instance. They did not. They weren't aggressive in their settlements at all on this particular planet.
Oh wow! And was this where there was those plesiosaurus in the water? Was that you who said that, John?
Yeah, that was me. That wasn't Typhon. That was Vega Prime, where my alter Heinrich grew up.
Say that again. What planet?
Vega Prime.
Vega Prime. Okay, because you've already discussed that already in a previous video.
Yeah.
Yeah, but essentially there were those creatures in the water that would eat people, so they had a special area where you could swim. But I think, wasn't that the planet that had New Atlantis?
I've
Vega
heard
Prime?
that. Yeah, I've heard that that's the same planet. I'm not certain, but they do look about the same. So I guess it's different spots on the same planet.
All right. Well, let's go back to Typhoon. So, was it like a water world, or did they have oceans similar to planet Earth?
Yes,
Size.
they have oceans. There's actually a lot more ocean there than there is here. There's most of the land is on is just islands that are not that big. There's only one that reaches the size of a continent, and it's about half the size of Australia. So it's a mostly water world.
Oh wow! Can you tell us about the aquatic life forms? Was there anything was it similar to what we have in our oceans, or something different?
It was similar, but you definitely know the difference. But there were recognizable fish and recognizable whales, and there was an underwater civilization there of these fish people, or, well, yeah, eel people, basically, pretty much.
And they were sentient?
Yes, they were sentient. They had cities underwater and all of that.
And they basically look like eels to us?
Yeah, but they had arms like ours. And they had a head that was kind of more similar to ours. It wasn't fully human-like, but it looked a bit more like ours than a typical eel.
Wow. You would think people on planet Earth would try to go there to capture these creatures to experiment on them.
I'm sure many people have tried that. And probably sometimes they've succeeded, unfortunately.
Wow. Because I know we had Jackie Keener here on our show, and she was talking about this group. I don't know if it was, what planet was that, or moon? Yeah, but it was here in this solar system somewhere. It's like Saturn or something, a moon of Saturn, where they would experiment on these eel creatures. And she was tasked as a empath to read the mind of the creatures. And she said they were just being tortured, and it was torturing her. But
yeah.
All right, well, okay. So somebody asked, what's the population there? Hope and Glory. I think you already answered that, right? You said tens of billions.
Yes.
All right. And let's see here. What other questions could we ask? So that was, you said 50 light years. And what do you think the human population might have been there?
No more than 100,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're a tiny, tiny minority.
Okay. And do you remember the name of the city or cities there?
No, I still don't remember that.
Okay. Guess Jennifer's asking, do they have trafficking on these planets? Maybe Typhoon?
Not on Typhon, no. There are many planets where they do, but not on Typhon. It's a very peaceful, positive planet.
Sorry. Okay, hold on. Sophie's asking, how long did you live on the planet, John?
I've lived there in several different altars for varying lengths of time. My Looking Glass one, which is the one where I get most of my memories of it from, lived there for about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
On the beach, on the shack, a shack on the beach.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Or no, in an apartment. It's a different altar entirely who has the shack on the beach there. It's a lot to keep track of, I know.
Well, John, how many altars do you have?
I don't even know. I'm aware of about 30. But I don't think... I imagine that I have the 13 by 13 by 13 cube. So that's 2,197. So I haven't even scratched the surface.
Wow.
I have good recall from 6.
Okay. All right. Here's a good question. How do they look? What other alien species was on Typhoon? Do you know?
Oh yeah, tons of them. Lots of different human species. There are many thousands of human species. It's not just the 3 that live on the surface here. And I'll explain why I say that there's 3 and not just 1 in a minute. But some of them looked very similar to us. Some of them weren't. Some of them might have had hooves. Some of them had different colors of skin, like I mentioned the lavender ones, but there are blue ones, green ones, whatever. Some of them have horns. Some of them have wings. Some have a tail. But if you run a DNA test, it says they are a species of human. So, and let's see. I remember a lot of reptilian species, different reptilian species. I don't recall seeing any Draco there. I recall seeing other reptilian species, iguanoids, ones that looked like a monitor lizard, a couple of different snake people races, all kinds of stuff. And there were the fish people that I mentioned, and there were animal people. I remember these gopher people, believe it or not.
Was that the beaver people, the Igarthians?
Could have been. Yeah, it could have been, yeah.
All right, because there's a book about that. I could check that out. The Igarthians of an eye. Okay, so let's see here. So many good questions. Let's go into this. Can you ask him if you talk about, I guess, are your altars and clone bodies, I guess, is what we want to know. So it's not just you and your physical.
Yes, they're in clone bodies. They're in clone bodies.
Do you have?
I have exactly one who is not. Jonas Quinn, which we should probably do a show about him eventually, but he is in my body, so when I get taken to do missions as him, I'm gone physically for however long, and then they put me back, of course, but excuse me. That's the only one that I can tell is in this same body.
And do you remember the cloning labs?
Some of them, yeah.
Okay. Where are the? Do you have any idea where these facilities are located?
I know that there's a massive one on Ganymede. One's on Earth. Let me think of.
How about Mena, Arkansas? Wasn't there one there? Mena,
Um,
Arkansas.
Could have been. I don't know. I know that there's one this will be a throwback to hear this in Peasmore in England. But it's been a while since you heard that one. But yeah,
Berkshire.
Yeah. And they have one.
Okay.
There is one in Spring, Texas, or underneath Spring, Texas, which is near Houston.
And there's also one, according to Dr. Richard Boylan. I don't even know if he's still alive, but he said there's one in under Iceland, in this rural part of Iceland. But
Okay.
so I guess if you want to learn more about that, go watch the movie The Island, so you can find out a little bit about also Donald Marshall. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see here. Oath Keeper is asking, do you know anything about the MIB home base? Is it Plant 42 or what do you think?
I don't know about that. I'm sorry.
Okay. So that's probably Area 51 or Pine Gap. It's probably where they're located. Okay. Can you tell us what Planet X or Nibiru is, John? What do you think of that?
That's the home world of the Anunnaki, aka the Tall Whites. And it orbits a brown dwarf which despite its name is not actually brown. It's more of a deep magenta color. It's actually really beautiful, but it orbits the outside of our Oort cloud. And it's I've been there once. This was on a mission, I think, pretty recently. This was like last year. I was there. It might even have been this year. I'm not entirely sure, but we had it was to do with the country that starts with a U. Getting weapons to assist them. And what it was like there was the surface a lot of it is irradiated. They've had a lot of nuclear wars there. So all of the life is in biospheres. And it looks pretty much like ancient Egypt, but also tropical. That's the environment they prefer. And I didn't care for it there, really. The vibes were weird. It was just not my kind of planet at all.
Were the occupants there, the Anunnaki, did they look really down on humans, like they're a slave species?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like what are the kind of things they would say to you, or not say to you?
They wouldn't call you by your name. They would call you by your. When you went in, you got tattooed with a number, and which of course this wasn't in English and it wasn't in the Roman alphabet, by the way, but it was still numbers in their alphabet, and you got stamped with it, and they would not call you by your name. They would call you by your number, and they would bark orders at you, something awful. And they were just really rude and condescending and not nice. And they would put in little subtle digs just to constantly remind you of how much more advanced they supposedly are. Like, they would make fun of the technology that we have and, things like that. So I'm sure there are good Anunnaki, don't get me wrong. They're not a hive mind, so I'm sure there are good ones, but I didn't meet any of them.
Are they a lot bigger than humans?
Yeah, they're the females are 8 to 10 feet tall. The males are 11 to 15 feet tall.
Oh wow. Okay. So were they the ones did they actually create us as a slave race to mine gold for their atmosphere? according to Zachariah Stitchin? Or what do you think of that?
That's the most likely history of where we come from of the ones I've heard. Everybody and their mother out there has a different version of where Earth humans came from. But the one that's in the Sumerian tablets is the one that seems to line up most with both what we know about history and with the recent genetic research that has come out. So that's the one that I'm most inclined to agree with. I'm sure that it has its own slant to it also, but it's the closest to what is real, I think.
Oh, wow. Essentially, yeah, the Anunnaki themselves didn't want to mine anything, so they created what we call.
And also, they can't live here, really. It's not hospitable to them here. But, sorry, go on.
So they originally created this first race of giants. What are we, like the Nephilim or something like that was running things, and then they became complacent, and they didn't want to work in the mines. So then they were working on creating a human species that had downgraded DNA, so we wouldn't have all the psionic superpowers that they would have.
Yes.
And also they damaged our lifespan, so we wouldn't become self-aware.
Yeah. So Rh positive people are the species created in that instance. There are 3 species of human on the surface of Earth. You made a really good segue into me saying this, because I said I wanted to talk about this. There's the Rh positives, who are Anunnaki and Homo capensis hybrids. Homo capensis are the Nephilim, basically. Then there's the most of the Rh negatives are Draco Anunnaki hybrids, and then there's the ones like me that are AB negative. The AB negative blood type comes from Aldebaran, and so the AB negative types are Draco Aldebaran hybrids, and there's only a few million of us on the planet.
Oh wow, thanks for sharing that. Okay, well, let's go here. Here's a good question from Peace Hall. What do you think of that? Has all space travel beyond Earth been banned? Nobody can leave the planet. What would you say to that one?
Maybe it's been banned, but people are still doing it. I mean, people do banned things all the time. You're not supposed to have cocaine, yet plenty of people have cocaine. You know.
Right, certainly. What's some banned contraband from planet Earth that would get smuggled out of Diego Garcia? What do you think, John?
Coffee is a big one. Because for a lot of ETs, coffee acts like a methamphetamine. That's how they metabolize it. So on a lot of places, it's a banned substance. Let's see here. They would smuggle out a lot of our drugs. But the biggest thing that gets smuggled out is people being trafficked, or DNA samples, so that they can grow clones of people to traffic. And they've done this to huge portions of the planet because it's so easy to get a DNA sample. All they have to do is wait until you leave your house, then portal in, go into your bathroom, and grab a few hairs off of your hairbrush, and then they can make clones. So
they could also abduct you and take a scoop mark. We have a lot of people in this community that are being abducted with needle marks and cut marks all the time.
Yeah.
Me being included. So
yeah, I get needle marks on a regular basis too. So
right. So according to Randy Kramer, the biggest goods smuggled off of planet Earth would be children's clothing, because apparently there's a lot of species, I guess you can, like, smaller species of ET out there that like our clothing, because in their culture, all they have is like maybe 3 or 4 different types of robes, and then we can find some, I guess, I don't know, some polo shirts and Nike Jordans, maybe. I don't know. I can imagine some crazy.
Yeah, that is a thing. That's definitely a thing.
Don't be surprised if you go traveling around in the Breakaway to see that. But also beer. Our beer is very popular out there on the Breakaway. So
Draco, especially the Draco, they love our beer for whatever reason. I can't stand it myself, but they love it.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's move on. We've got... Good day, James. I've been following your program for a long time. I have 2 questions. One, are there any Mexicans or Latinos living in the Breakaway? And what's the shape of our planet? So Jose,
okay.
so
the shape of our planet, that'll be quicker to respond to, so I'm going to say that first. It's round. We live on a round planet, and it's about it looks about like what you see on a globe. There are some islands that they leave out, and there are some slight differences in the shape of the continents, but we live on a round planet.
And certainly they could open up, go into like a pocket reality where all the continents could be totally different.
Yeah, that's possible. That is possible, but that's not what we're living.
What about the ice wall going down into Antarctica? You go into inner Earth? Is the planet hollow?
Yes, it is hollow. The planet is hollow, and actually all planets are hollow. That's how. And there's been experiments proving this, by the way, where if you take a liquid solid object and spin it, it will form a sphere with a hollow center. But are there any Mexicans or Latinos in the programs? Tons of them. There's a lot of German DNA in Latin America. Lots and lots of Germans migrated to Latin America and became mixed in with the population. So, yeah, there's tons of Hispanic people in the Breakaway. I remember in particular, an Argentine community on Mars that they're very, very wealthy. They're the top of the Martian food chain, pretty much. And I'm not sure if I posted it publicly anywhere yet, but the first person actually to be born on Mars, first Terran human to be born on Mars in January 1943 was from Argentina, or her family was from Argentina. So, yeah. Estefania Coronado was her name.
Well, let's touch that even further, because it looks like wouldn't want to call them Germans, more they were Prussians back in the 1850s. Got a hold of portal technology, and they were settling Mars in the 1850s. What do you think of that, John?
They weren't. I don't think they were organically doing that. They went back in time, I think. So it was from the 1930s and 40s that they went back in time to the 1850s to do this.
Oh, well. Okay, so my Spanish is not that great, but I'm going to try. How about this? Actually, I will just to put it in the let me do this for this is the name of the Spanish Breakaway.
Los Caballeros de las Estrellas.
De las Estrellas, Night of the Stars.
Yeah, no.
What?
Knights, K and I with a K.
Oh, okay, Knights. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so what can you tell us about this particular group?
Not a whole lot, really. I've worked with them on very few occasions. They have their strongest having trouble with words today. Their strongest trading partner ally is the word I'm looking for. Their strongest ally is Altair, the Altair star system, which they look pretty much like humans, but they have turquoise skin. And they also a lot of the various Spanish-speaking groups, they work with each other, and they also have ties also to Aldebaran, because Spain was a fascist country until the late 1970s. There have been.
Oh, we just lost him again. All right, so I literally do not have any notes on Caballero. I'm not even going to try to say it, Night of the Stars. But we have some other groups out there. The Royal British Space Navy. So that's the obviously British. We got Holmes de la Nuit, the Men of the Nights, the Vichy French SSP group. Of course, there's IDARF. Let's see here. Let's go back. Radiant Guardian, Radiant Glory. So that was all part of split off from Solar Warden in the 1990s. The Radiant Guardian patrols the sun to Mars. Radiant Glory patrols Mars to the end of our solar system near the Oort cloud, where they have bases. We also have the Red Rising Star. So that was part of the Soviet Union, their secret space program. So most of their ships were scrapped or taken over by other groups when the Soviet Union collapsed. And they lost most of their fleet. There actually are still colonies in the Soviet breakaway. So apparently communism can work if you have a John, I was just talking about the Soviet breakaway. Communism can work if you have a replicator, because there's not much of incentive to work under that particular type of governance. So, but if you have a replicator, then you don't have to work, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. But I was talking about Altair when I got kicked off.
Okay.
Altair, they're a very militant society, I would say. So they have a very strong emphasis on military culture, which so do the Spanish, so they mesh pretty well. And about Aldebaran, they've had ties to a lot of the dictatorships in Latin America. The Perón regime in Argentina, the Ubico regime in Guatemala, the Pinochet regime in Chile, and so on. Aldebaran has had influence on a lot of those.
Okay, thank you. So did you say Altair, the planet Altair?
The star system. The
star
planet,
system.
Yeah. It has several
Okay.
inhabited planets.
Interesting, because we had Dr. Michael Wolff. He had contact with the being from the Altair. He actually has a picture on his book. I was trying to find it real quick, but I don't know. I'll just show this real quick and we can move on. And you can tell me, oh, well, that's not really. Is that him right there? Black and white. Do you know? Does that look like Altarians?
They have hair, but yeah.
Very similar to us?
Yes, very similar to us, but their skin is blue. Usually it's more turquoise, but sometimes it is a lighter blue.
Okay. So if you want to learn more about, of course, Dr. Michael Wolff is no longer with us, but there's a whole other story behind that. I had a channeled, David Lotherington came in and channeled Dr. Michael Wolff for us. And I've also got the conversations in my book. But anyway, okay, so let's see here. Let's move on here. And we got some more questions. Here we have, we got that one. Do you expect the Negl Maac on Earth? First of all, do you know what I'm talking about, Negl Maac?
I'm bad with names.
Okay, so they are basically the Draco's worst enemy, and but they look like the aliens from Independence Day. So
okay. I know what you're talking about now. No, I don't really expect them. they've never been super relevant here. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. According to Buckarubba's Bonanza, says that Earth is 25 times bigger than shown in books. What do you think of that?
I don't agree.
According to source directives. Yeah. All right. So maybe it's when you look into inner Earth, as you go down into the Earth, it looks bigger. Maybe.
Definitely. Most of surface Earth is ocean. So inner Earth is mostly land. It's maybe 10% ocean inside. So there is a lot more land on the inside.
Okay. Well, I kind of look forward to answering this one. So, your digestive tract is pH neutral. So a lot of the foods that we eat are acidic. So when they say you want to be more, it's not you want to be alkaline. You want to be pH neutral. So by taking alkaline foods, you neutralize the acidity. But so we just want people to understand that, because they think that you just keep drinking that was a Kangen water, and you're going to be good. That stuff is not good for you at a certain point. Everything.
No. Nothing is good for you in excess.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just nobody. I don't think very many people in our community know that, so I just thought I would share that. Okay. Here we go. Thank you very much, King James. I appreciate that. Flat Earth is one of many psyops.
I definitely agree with that.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. We got. Is there any ET food that is good? What do you think about that, John?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a species from the star system of Minkar, which is one of the ones in Orion. I believe it's one of the stars that make up Orion's quote-unquote feet. Or it might be one of the ones on his quote-unquote arrow. I can't remember which now, but they make really good food. It reminds me of the cuisine of southeastern China. So like steamed buns, barbecued meat, lots of seafood. It's really, really good. There's an Andromedan species that makes stuff that's very similar to French cuisine, and that I'm fond of. So yeah, there is good ET food. It's people overestimate a lot of times people overestimate how different they are from us. Like, you know. Yeah.
Certainly. So can you get that type of food right out of the replicator?
Yeah, you can. It's not as good as when it's fresh, but yeah, you can have a replicator that makes it.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the food replicator? I'm guessing you had interactions with one.
Yeah, I had them on my alter Heinrich when he served on the USS Hoechkler. Hoechkler is how you say it. They had one, and they had a better quality one than the old ones. They didn't have the top of the line one for whatever reason, but they had a better quality one. So food, it tasted similar to the real thing. And it was made by Mondelez Corporation. And I believe they're who make most of the replicators, which they're a food company, major food company, on Earth. Oh, okay, that is, who drew this?
Ashton.
Okay.
Noctwalpen food replicator.
Okay, he is way better than I am at recalling technical details like that, but yeah, that is what it looks like pretty much, except he forgot to include that there should be a great big Mondelez logo on it.
So, but John, Mondelez, that's here based on planet Earth.
Yes, there are a lot of companies that are here that are also out there. And I made a pretty big post on my Facebook about this where I listed off all the ones I remember, but there are a lot of food companies, petroleum companies, car companies, musical record labels, interestingly. A lot of these companies are ICC partners.
So, is it very likely that some of the food in the grocery store that you're buying could have been put through one of these replicators?
Some of it sure tastes like it.
You wouldn't put them past that. They would.
No, I wouldn't at all. Not at all.
Wow, that's really something to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bring Ashton on here. Maybe we can do a panel with you and him. We can discuss more about the replicator. He can tell us more about this. Ashton, when you hear this, shoot me over a message. All right, so let's yes, take that off. Okay, we got so Lindy was asking chocolate. Is there chocolate in the Breakaway?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Germans are big on chocolate, so yeah, they have chocolate. And they have really good chocolate too. Like, go ahead.
Can they grow it in the Breakaway?
On some planets, yeah. Agriculture is a very tricky thing when you have an empire. Some plants or some crops will grow on some planets and some will not. And some will grow, but they'll come out with totally different properties. But there are some where they are able to grow cacao plantaries, and this is actually ties into another excuse me, I'm sorry, to another company, which is known as, I believe, Chiquita Brands International, which is, I mean, you probably, if you've ever eaten a banana you bought from the grocery store, you've had one of their products.
All right, so from Joe Simpson's episode where Germans buy nuclear plant and Homer meets with them where they tell Homer, Germany is the land of chocolate.
So. Yep, it pretty much is, at least chocolate as we know it.
Okay.
I mean, there used to be, I mean, drinking chocolate is a lot older than that, and it's from Mexico, but chocolate, like chocolate bars and all that, yeah, that is from Germany.
So the lower rank ensign class, they would be given a lower quality food replicator that basically may have had maybe one or two drinks, lemonade and tang, and probably some smuck come out of there, some mixture of meat substitute.
Yeah. I was somewhat higher level than that, so I had an intermediate quality one. I was an officer. I was a commissioned officer, but I didn't have much power. But I was high enough that I had an intermediate quality one where it didn't continue to taste like sewage, at the very least. So,
well, how about this one from Paul? Do you think the cabal or whoever, these corporations are using replicators to make gold and diamonds?
You know, I'd never thought of that, but it wouldn't surprise me. And is there a way to find out that it is made with a replicator? I guess you'd need a lab. You'd need to test its chemical properties.
All right. So that's good with that one. And of course, the higher, the rich, the elite, and the upper higher class ranks would have access to a more advanced model.
Yes.
The prime rib probably pretty much tastes like it.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite, but okay.
I've had the privilege of eating from one of those just a couple of times when I got to go to really fancy restaurants in the Breakaway, and you couldn't tell the difference.
And so we had Apollomy come on here, and she said that they serve human meat in some of these restaurants in the Breakaway. What do you think about that, John?
That's disturbing.
Okay.
It wouldn't shock me. It's
Did you
possible.
ever encounter that?
What?
Did you encounter it? Did you ever encounter it?
Not that I can recall. I do know most of the meat that they have is grown from stem cells. So it's, in all likelihood, they didn't actually kill anyone to get that meat. I mean, I still think it's pretty weird and gross to eat human meat, but, you know, I guess at least you're not killing someone for it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. So here's some more question. How did the looking glass technology work? Do you have any idea what was going on there?
I believe it has I believe it's a kind of AI interface that connects with your third eye. That's the best way I can explain it. I was never told the ins and outs of how it worked. I knew how to use it. It's like most people, your average person probably doesn't know how their car works. They just know how to use it, you know.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's perfectly fine. Let's see here. Another person. Okay. Was there a second one located in Antarctica? Well, I guess that was a Stargate. What about Antarctica? Do you know any technology that was retrieved? Maybe a looking glass?
I know that there is still some stuff down in Antarctica. The Germans still have a skeleton staff in Base 211. I don't know the ins and outs of their technology. Sorry.
Okay. Is looking glass technology similar to the yellow cube? Do you know what the yellow cube is? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's a better version of that, pretty much. The yellow cube can only see into the future, and it can only see into one timeline. The looking glass can see into any timeline, past, present, or future, anywhere in the multiverse. There's, as far as I'm aware, there's no limits to what it can look at. It's amazing technology, really.
And so the yellow cube, was that a deal with the Greys from Betelgeuse that were with the treaty? It was the Greada Treaty with
I believe so, yes.
Eisenhower. Yeah, 1955. They gave him a yellow cube. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. What else we got? We had the magnetosphere of Titan. How about we go ahead? Let's go ahead and maybe put that the last segment here. So, what can you tell us? What is on Titan? First of all, what moon is that a planet of?
It's the largest moon of Saturn.
Okay.
It has several German colonies on it. The biggest one is New Nuremberg. And the way that they had it was they had a magnetosphere dome over it with an atmosphere, a pressurized atmosphere, breathable for us inside of it. Because if you were to step outside of that without a suit on, you would not last 5 seconds on Titan. You might instantly freeze to death, just to start with, but even if you didn't, you would be poisoned instantly by the gases there.
So tell us what a magnetosphere looks like and who built them.
The Germans built it. The technology was acquired from the Draco. It was one of the very first technologies that they got when they made the deal with the Draco. And we have a magnetosphere around Earth. It's similar but different. It's a force field, essentially, that you can put a pressurized atmosphere inside of. And it's just about impenetrable. So it also works very well for defense, because anything that comes in contact just bounces back off of it. Anything smaller than like a meteor, a good-sized meteor, will just bounce off of it. And that's why we don't hardly ever get hit with meteors on Earth, is because of our magnetosphere.
Is that what we call the firmament?
No. It's you can look this up. This is a known scientific thing, the magnetosphere around Earth.
Like the Van Allen belt?
Yeah. I believe it's the Van Allen belt. So it's a force field created through the artificial one that's on Titan and on many other places is created through electromagnetism, and it creates a shield, just a shield, like I was saying, that will cover it, and it's in a dome shape, is how it comes out being. They tried to make it just flat, but they couldn't, because I don't know why exactly that wouldn't work, but it didn't.
Has there ever been a time where the power may have accidentally gone off and everyone froze to death inside their city?
Possibly. I've never heard about it, but it's not impossible. But they have regen tanks, so they would just, the survivors or people from another colony would just come in, turn the power back on, and regen everyone, and everything would go back to normal.
Certainly. So the definition of death in the Breakaway is a lot more different than here on planet Earth.
Definitely.
Interesting. Okay. And did the magnetosphere? I know you mentioned Draco, but wasn't it like originally the builder race who created the technology? Like I thought there was like a
probably, but the Germans received it from the Draco, and instructions on how to use it from the Draco. I mean,
John, I thought that they originally found an abandoned magnetosphere on Titan, and then didn't they like regenerate that? Maybe the Draco told them about this facility.
that's possible. I don't think New Nuremberg was like that. I think that they built it from scratch. Maybe some of the other settlements on Titan. That very well could have been.
So, let's see what we're talking about. I guess New Nuremberg, that's where you lived? There on Titan?
Yes, I lived there.
So with all that advanced technology, was that colony utopia?
No, it was not.
Okay.
They had a lot of slavery, and they still do. They have a lot of slavery, and the slaves live in poverty. Your average trafficked person there is no different from your average trafficked person here.
So, but theoretically, John, they don't need to keep slaves with all their advanced technology, correct?
I would think so, but I guess someone has to mine for them, and someone has to clean their houses, and they seem to like having power over other people, over their fellow man. They seem to enjoy having power. So that's something I think they culturally need to work out.
Understood. Okay. So tell us more about what was your living conditions like there? Were you in the upper class, lower class, side of town?
When I was living there, I was working for a certain woman. I'm not going to go into detail on who she is. But she paid for my room and board. I lived in something like a hostel, but it was a nice hostel. It wasn't the slave quarters. It was blue-collar workers, paid blue-collar workers, basically. That was where they lived. And so it was acceptable conditions that I lived under. I did have access, because of this woman, I did have access to the really good medical side of things, and occasionally I did get to eat really good food. So it wasn't that bad. But I saw some people who were living in total squalor, and, like, yeah, it was not nice.
Oh, wow. I guess you just can't escape from that once you're there.
Probably not. The only chance you really have is if you're discovered to have some incredible psychic talent, and if this talent gets noticed by the military, then maybe you get propelled up to the top. But that's very, very rare, of course.
Okay. Paul is asking, were you in your physical body there, or was that a clone of you?
That was a clone of me.
Okay. Wow. And are you still there right now?
No.
Okay.
That clone, it's a long story, but the group that he was a part of was disbanded. I don't want to get targeted more than I need to be, so I'm not going to talk about them very much, but the group he was a part of disbanded, and he went into hiding around Neptune, and he was there trying to get out of the solar system and basically disappear, but people caught up to him and he was killed, and he died, I think, August 2022.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Sort of, in a way. Yes.
I
Wow.
mean, yeah, it is a part of me.
Yeah.
And
I know I don't even want to. It's buried somewhere in my computer. This picture that you recognize might be what it looked like there, but you basically it shows like a yellow atmosphere.
Yes, I have it. Hold on.
Oh, you can.
One
Okay.
second.
All right. So there's basically like flying cars, skyscrapers in the center part of the town, where I guess where the rich part of town is, right? Where it's actually really nice in some parts.
Yeah.
Right, John?
The rich areas are really, really nice. Here, I'm sending it to you on WhatsApp.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if we can. So yeah. So we
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Sent it.
And so yeah, I found it. Okay, so is this does the sky look really dim because it's so far away from the sun?
It's dim, yeah. And it is. I can't see it.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
I got it. I'm working on it.
Oh.
So let's see here. Hold on. Let's
It
see.
is dim. And it is orangey yellow in color. The sky is, because it's it has a really high amount of sulfur in the atmosphere, so it comes out orangey yellow.
So the air kind of smells there. It stinks.
Outside of the domes, yeah.
Oh, outside. Okay. But inside it, I guess.
Inside it's fine, because it's totally pressure sealed from the outside.
And are the buildings kind of rectangular like this, looking like
Yes.
Architecture from the 1940s?
Yes. Yes.
And it's got a very German look, kind of European.
Yes, it does. And some parts of it, there are some districts that are replicas of, the buildings are replicas of medieval Nuremberg. You can't really see it in this picture, but they did build some districts to look like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so many questions. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Were they religious people?
No, not whatsoever. Not religious whatsoever.
So there's no churches in that city.
No. I mean, there's replicas, but they're used for other things. They're not used for worship.
Okay, so they didn't bring religion with them. I guess
No.
like an atheist. Are they atheist?
They're Black Sun Society, which they don't really do houses of worship. At least that particular sect doesn't have houses of worship. People practice it in the privacy of their home. They don't have public places where people go to worship.
Is that where basically they do orgies? Is that's a religion?
They do orgies, yeah, and they take black goo and things like that. And they do seances, really intense seances, to call up the dead and make deals with the spirit world through them. I don't fully understand all of it myself because I didn't really partake. I just know what I've heard.
Wow. So we have a question here from Don. What was the level of consciousness of the people there? Are they like us, basically, or is it worse or
Yeah.
better?
Yeah, I'd say they're about like us. They're 3D physical humans, just the same as us, so they're not really any different.
Oh wow. So basically, people had flying cars here.
Yeah, they did. Some of the ultra wealthy did. The main means of transport was by maglev rails underground, so a subway system.
And that would go to other magnetospheres on the planet with other cities in them.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Audience members, does anybody have any questions about Titan? Let's go ahead and throw them in there. So I'm trying to think about anything else. John, you want to talk about this?
I would like to talk a little bit about the guy who was the head of it.
Okay, go ahead.
Of this colony, and I believe still is. Klaus Barbie, Klaus, and then Barbie, Barbie, like the doll. He was the head of the Gestapo in France during the occupation, the German occupation of France, or might not have been the Gestapo chief, but he was in charge of the deportations of Jews, and he was known for extreme brutality, and he carried that over into how he ran this place. It was very much a dictatorship. And he wasn't really able to be racist anymore. So there are people of other races there, but in every other way, it's the same as 1930s or 40s Germany, in how it's run and in the political environment in general. Very repressive, very, how would you put it? Well, fascist. It is a fascist state.
Are you allowed to hold hands in public or kiss in public?
Yeah, you can do that. That's not really stigmatized in German culture. They've been doing that forever. But you can't say anything bad about the government. You have to follow any orders you're given. If someone from the military walks up to you on the street and gives you an order, you have to follow it. Like, no questions asked. Even if they don't know anything about you, or anything. Yeah. And you can be arrested for very small things, like, if you get caught smoking in the wrong places, you get arrested and flogged.
What about if you jaywalk?
Probably, yeah. Probably. They have, if you get caught with any illicit substances, it's an instant death penalty. Like, no trial, no nothing. It's a public execution immediately. So,
Unless you're part of the elite class.
well, yeah, then you can just pay them off, but, you know.
Okay. Wow.
Some things never change, it seems, unfortunately.
Did they actually have trees lined on their streets? Was there like an atmosphere with like moisture and like
No,
water?
not really.
No rain? Okay.
No, not really. There were greenhouses, and they were mainly used for food, but some of them were used as public parks. But just out on the streets, no, there wasn't any greenery, really.
Oh, wow.
Because, like, there's not
okay.
enough sunlight for it to grow, so...
Oh, wow, you're right. So
Yeah.
would it be like the equivalent of like right before the sun sets or right after it sets? The light in the sky?
Yeah. Thereabouts, yeah.
Maybe 10 minutes after the sun sets, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see here. We should probably wrap this up soon. Let's quickly go through this. Is there any more timelines that we don't know about? John, probably.
I'm sure that there's thousands of timelines. The ones we need to watch out for, there's a few. One is where the Germans in space invade here. Which that might end up not even being a bad thing, to be totally honest, because maybe we'd get the benefits of being in their civilization that we should already have. There is a timeline of nuclear war with Russia, and which we need to avoid.
So Russia in the future will probably get Alaska back.
Yeah,
probably.
Probably.
Whether we have a nuclear war or not.
Probably, yeah.
Is that because they become a superpower?
Eventually, yeah, they will become a superpower again. Maybe. With how their government is being run right now, it might not. But
well, what about this war in the Ukraine? What happens with that?
Ukraine wins. And usually in every timeline I've seen, Ukraine has won. And how Russia responds to its loss varies. Sometimes they balkanize and become, I think, 3 separate countries. So Russia, as we know it now, ceases to exist. Sometimes it continues on. And there's a timeline that I don't think we're really at risk of now. But there was one timeline where Russia became an American puppet state. Because America eventually sent troops to Ukraine, and they didn't stop marching until they reached Moscow. So
So America took over Russia?
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Well, the multiverse is very dynamic and complex. So let's just put intention. Everything will be good. So, question: what was the population on Titan? That, I guess, New Nuremberg, that one magnetosphere.
New Nuremberg was about 15 million people. There's about 40 million total humans. There are other species there, and I don't know the populations of them, to be honest. But New Nuremberg specifically is around 15 million. 1550, just to be clear.
How about Ganymede? Have you been to Ganymede? Is there a facility on Ganymede?
There is. That's where Kruger is headquartered, actually. And there is a Solar Warden presence there.
Is there also a magnetosphere on Ganymede where there's a giant city as well? Probably.
It's underground. It's underground.
Sort of like Ceres. Yeah, in Ceres. Yeah. Okay. Have you been in that city?
On Ganymede? Once. Mostly just for the nightlife. Which they do have a good nightlife, but I didn't see very much of it.
What's the name of the city there that you were at?
Oh gosh, I believe it was New Detroit.
What?
Yeah, I think it was New Detroit, and it was American run.
Was it a dump?
No, at least not the part that I saw, but I guess there's nice parts of Detroit too, so I don't know.
Sorry if you live over there in Michigan, in Detroit. We're not poking too much fun. It's just, it's really our own government did it to us. We had, oh my gosh, we're going to go over time. I guess we're over time now. So, yeah, we had basically it's called the CAFR, AFR, and the annual financial report. So essentially the government's hiding away a bunch of money and all these, not just pension funds, but a bunch of other funds, rainy day funds they don't tell us about. So back in 1978, initially the government would invest money in our own country, but in 1978 they changed the rules to invest offshore. So our own government, through their aggregate of funds, because they have the gross domestic product that we're being taught is only like a tiny portion of the whole economy. Most of it's through the government and also through the breakaway. So we only represent a tiny little bit of the financial activity, and most of the money is just being, our economy is being hollowed out. So we have basically the best government money can buy here on planet Earth.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. So let's see here. Let's keep on going. Let's try to get this quickly. Have you met a albino royal Draco, John?
Once. That I can remember. He was actually a slave to the rest of them. He'd done something against the Empire. I don't know what, but so his royal status was stripped and, he was enslaved and assigned to work with the Germans, which that's seen as a really insulting post, having to go work with lousy humans. So, yeah. Go
ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, what do they sound like when they talk? Are they telepathic, or do they make they sound like a chicken maybe?
They're telepathic, but they do talk sometimes amongst themselves. And they sounded very reptilian. They sounded like snakes talking, pretty much.
Oh, wow. All right, let's move on. No, we could go more on that, but let's just move on here. Okay, so we have, was the Van Allen belt created to keep us on planet Earth? What do you think of that one?
That's a good question. Maybe it was.
Like a slave planet.
Yeah.
Living on a prison planet.
It is. We are on a prison planet. So yeah, maybe that was part of it. Because like ships can't get through it. You have to leave Earth. You have to have a portal. So.
Or have help. ET help.
Yeah.
To get out of the Van Allen belt.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Are we the only ones that use gasoline? From Valerie wants to know.
As far as I know, yeah. It's not a good technology. It's bad for the environment and it's really inefficient.
Right. Of course, we all have to go into that. Free energy exists out there in the breakaway. Right? They don't use gasoline out there.
No, they don't.
Even like Hitler. He during World War II, they were using a form of, I guess, fracking to get oil from coal, the shale oil, and they developed a process that was way more cheaper than the Americans, what we have. So that's why they were able to still get oil during the war, the embargoes. All right, so let's see here. Did you have any special abilities up there?
Yes, well, I have some of them down here a little bit, but up there I'm extremely telepathic. My altars are extremely telepathic. It's not quote-unquote me. My altars are very telepathic. Some of them can do telekinesis. Some of them have superhuman strength. I made my post about on my Facebook about my altar Kyle, who is he's in a cyborg body, and so he has this. He's an espionage cyborg, so he has this ability where he can just hear a few seconds of a conversation and like empathically absorb any language and then be able to speak it. And he's also superhumanly strong. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. All right, so let's continue on here. King James made a comment. Magnetic shields allows us any craft to pass through the Van Allen belt. So I guess that's the key.
Okay.
We have here from Holotech mentioned that the Ukraine doesn't win. I guess maybe the timelines all vary, but what do you know about that timeline where the Ukraine doesn't win? What happens?
Very little, to be honest. I know that it exists, or it did exist. But like, I don't know.
Okay.
It's
well, according to Daryl James, Ukraine loses and Russia absorbs it. And then in the future, basically the assets of the world are divided by what's located in your own region. So like your own economy is based on your assets, well, I should say. So Russia and China, basically the United States is number 5. So somewhere, based on our assets. So we're going to be downgraded, but being number 5 is not so bad. We're not going to have a nuclear war. And somebody's talking about a kingdom government, maybe more like a council government or maybe an AI governance. But
again, it depends on which timeline. Okay. It's could you pull that back up again? What that person said?
I just lost it. Hey, Holotech. Oh, here we go. Found it.
Earth will be a kingdom. I sure hope not. I like democracy, and I like not being a one-world totalitarian shithole.
John, are you aware of a trading hub built right now by the Federation close to Jupiter? This is Galactic Command? Jupiter Command.
Yeah, that exists. I was there earlier this year. It's run by, I believe the administrators of it are mostly the iguanoids, which they're friendly to us. So it's a decent place. I wasn't there but a few hours, though. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Isn't Bush Senior a guanoid?
No, he might be a Draco. He's not an iguanoid.
Oh, okay.
It's two different species. There are millions of reptilian species.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Do you find your life here on planet Earth boring?
I don't find it boring. I find it unfair. I find it unfair that I don't have access to these abilities that are naturally in my system somewhere, but I just can't get at them. I find it unfair that I'm not compensated in any way for all of this work that I'm doing. But boring, not really, no. Yeah.
Okay. Jax wants to know which race totally shows themselves to humanity first in the first contact event. What do you think that would be?
Probably the tall whites. Probably the tall whites, although there's also this talk of the PNT, or however you pronounce it. If they ever get off their asses and finally do this first contact that they're talking about, maybe it'll be them first. But I'm expecting probably the tall whites. And then maybe the inner Earth species might come out after that, which includes, there's a reptilian species down there, there's the inner Earth, quote-unquote, Aryans, blonde, blue-eyed people from inner Earth, and there's a couple of others, but maybe they'll come out after the tall whites. And then,
from Hyperborea.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you think we'll see a false flag alien invasion as an example, first contact, or is that timeline dissipated?
I think the opportunity has passed. Like, they're already starting to admit that aliens are real, and they've already released the documents for Project Bluebeam, at least some of them. They've been declassified. So I think that the opportunity to get away with that has passed. Maybe they might try it, but I don't think they'd be able to get away with it anymore.
Are you familiar? Thank you. Are you familiar with crystalline chambers?
I've heard about them from other people in the community. I can't say that I have any experience with them that I can recall.
But you have seen a med bed.
Yeah, I've seen a med bed, but that's a different thing.
All right. Wow. Maybe we could do I think we probably have to do another show about med beds. John, we'll have to say that for another one. Someone is asking, do you have a website?
No, I don't. I'm meaning to get one. I have a lot going on. I have a Facebook page, and I'm posting, these past couple of weeks, I've started posting a lot of stuff on there that is pretty interesting. At least I think it's interesting. So people might enjoy that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's see what we can do. Get the link in there. All right. So Paul's asking the title, I guess my book. It's called Lone Wolf, and you can go to neologicaltech.com, get a copy of that. Also get a meditation cube to help you relax. John, are you going to work on a book soon?
Yeah. I'm planning to write a book about my alter Heinrich story, and it'll just be called Breakaway, I think. And I want to write a Montauk book too, and it'll be called Truth Takes Time.
Wow. And well, when you've got that all put together, maybe we can bring you back on here again to talk about Heinrich. And if you got more to share about Montauk, I guess you were there. What did you say? Like, maybe you're still there at Montauk, the aspect.
My alter finally allowed himself to reintegrate with me just a couple of months ago. So it was from 1963 until 2023. So 60 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He stayed in that fight for a very, very, very long time.
Wow. Well, do you think they'll pay you for the work you did at Montauk? I mean, you were a kid most of the time, right?
No, I was an adult most of the time. I was essentially an armed escort during missions. Will they pay me? I don't know. I hope so, but I don't even... It would also kind of feel like blood money to me, so I don't think I even want that. What I want is an apology that it happened and therapy.
Right. Well, like one of my alters on the moon, James Ring, they told him that I got paid, like, I guess $15 million to sell my DNA. So he was mad at me when I first was able to make contact with that aspect. And I told him that they didn't pay us anything. They just stole our DNA.
Yeah.
They just lie and lie and lie. I mean, they lie out there. We're being lied to. Unfortunately, maybe that's the biggest problem with humanity is we just lie to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe, okay. Yeah. And
all
we
right.
lie to ourselves. I mean, you know.
Guess that's part of being a slave race. But nope, not anymore. All right. Well, I know that we got lots of good. Oh, okay, Linda, this last one. What's your Facebook site called?
It's just under my name, John Whitberg.
All right. We'll see if we can put the link out there for you. All right, guys, we're gonna need to call it because it's past time. Is that okay, John?
Yeah.
You good with that? Good idea.
Yeah, this was good.
All right. Again, if you want to learn more about the work I do, go to Neological Tech, and be sure to subscribe wherever. Hopefully, you're watching this on Rumble, because we're on the backup YouTube right now because of more censorship. But everybody, have a wonderful day wherever you are. I'll see you all later. And John, we're gonna bring you back on here again in probably another 2 weeks or 10 days. I'm not sure. We'll have to check it out.
Yeah, with Christy. Yeah,
we're gonna do a panel. So if you have more questions for John, you can come back then. But anyway, well, everybody have a wonderful day. I'll see you all later. And bye, everybody.
Bye.
Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.